Hidden deep in the heart of San Jose, there stands a mansion so enigmatic, so steeped in mystery that its name evokes both curiosity and awe. The Oz or Winchester Mystery House, with its labyrinth of corridors, staircases that seem to lead nowhere, and doors that open into nothing, is a place that defies the very concept of architectural logic. It's not just a house, it's a monument to superstition, grief, and the unknown. When you step onto the grounds of the Winchester Mystery House, you are stepping into a place where the boundaries of the physical and the spiritual seem to blur, a place where the weight of history presses down on every floorboard and the air hums with the echoes of unanswered questions. This mansion, constructed in 1884 era, was the brainchild of a woman who, in her deep sorrow, sought to build a home that would shield her from the spirits she believed haunted her every waking moment. Her name was Sarah Winchester, and the mansion was her attempt to appease the spirits of those who had died from the very weapons that her husband's family had created, the SC Winchester rifle. But what made this particular house so unique, so different from any other mansion of its time, was its ceaseless construction. For 38 years, day and night, workers toiled away, building and rebuilding rooms, walls, staircases, and hallways that led nowhere, all at the direction of Sarah Winchester and the supposed spirits that she believed guided her hand. The story of the Winchester Mystery House begins not with its physical construction, but with the tragedy that set its foundation in motion. Sarah Winchester was born in Avasare, 1839, and was married to Oz William Wirt Winchester, heir to the Oz Winchester Repeating Arms Company. The company was responsible for the creation of the Asa Winchester rifle, a firearm that became infamous for its role in the American Civil War and its use in the settlement of the American frontier. The Winchester rifle was marketed as the gun that won the West, and it was credited with playing a significant role in the expansion of the United States into the Western territories. But with such fame and fortune came a dark legacy, one that would haunt Sarah Winchester for the rest of her life. In as 1866 Ives, Sarah's life was shattered by tragedy when her young daughter, Asa Annie, died of a childhood illness. Just a few years later, in Asa 1881's, her husband, William, passed away from NOS tuberculosis. Sarah, left alone, inherited a massive fortune, one that made her one of the wealthiest women in the United States at the time. However, along with her fortune came a crushing burden. Sarah believed that the spirits of those killed by her husband's rifles were angry and vengeful, and they were seeking revenge. In her grief and confusion, she turned to a spiritualist medium for guidance. The medium, who claimed to have the ability to communicate with the dead, delivered a chilling message that would change Sarah's life forever. According to the medium, the spirits of those killed by the Oz Winchester rifle were restless, and they would never leave Sarah in peace unless she did something to atone for the bloodshed caused by her family's invention. The medium advised Sarah to build a house, but not just any house. The mansion had to be built continuously with no end in sight. The spirits, the medium claimed, would dictate the design, and the construction could never stop. If Sarah stopped building, the spirits would exact their revenge. Sarah, who had already suffered immense personal loss, believed the medium's words and was consumed by the need to protect herself and her wealth from the wrath of these restless souls. Sarah Winchester moved west to California, where she purchased a modest farmhouse in San Jose. The farmhouse would soon be the site of a construction project that would span nearly 4 decades and give rise to one of the most bizarre and fascinating structures in architectural history. Construction began in 1884, and from that moment on, it never stopped. Workers toiled day and night, constantly building new rooms, hallways, and staircases at Sarah's direction. Some of the workers believed that Sarah was mentally unstable, but others were more convinced by the stories of vengeful spirits and ghostly visitations. The house grew and expanded at an astonishing rate, with new rooms and features being added. At its peak, the mansion would contain 160 rooms, 47 fireplaces, 510,000 windows, and every 2,000 doors, many of which led to nowhere. Sarah's obsession with the house was all-consuming. It is said that she slept in different rooms every night, moving from one place to another to avoid the spirits that she believed were haunting her. The design of the house itself reflected her disturbed state of mind. Staircases were built that led to the ceiling, doors were constructed that opened into walls, and windows were placed in positions that made no sense. The mansion was, in essence, this physical manifestation of Sarah's fear and grief, a house designed not for comfort or luxury, but as a spiritual refuge. Every corner, every room, every hallway seemed to hold a mystery, and the house became a labyrinth of the unknown. The mansion's design is as much a work of art as it is a testament to Sarah's obsession. The architecture blends Victoria and Queen Anne styles, but the design elements are often bizarre and contradictory. There are wide hallways that suddenly end in dead ends, high staircases that ascend to nowhere, and masked doors that lead into blank walls. The mansion's layout is so strange that it has been described as a spiritual maze, a physical structure built to appease the spirits that Sarah believed were tormenting her. The house is said to have been designed to confuse and disorient, and it certainly succeeds in that regard. No room or hallway seems to lead to the next in any logical order. One of the most famous features of the Winchester Mystery House is its Arzar Grand Ballroom, which is accessible only through a narrow, hidden passageway. The ballroom itself is a striking space with ornate windows, elaborate woodwork, and high ceilings. However, it was never used for its intended purpose. In fact, the entire mansion, despite its grandeur, was never truly a home in the traditional sense. Instead of being a space for social gatherings or family life, it became a place for Sarah Winchester to attempt to appease the restless spirit she believed surrounded her. Despite its strange and eerie design, the mansion was not merely a chaotic construction project. It was a reflection of Sarah's inner turmoil, a manifestation of her desire to protect herself from the guilt and the fear she felt over the deaths caused by the Winchester rifle. The mansion was built with the hope that it would provide sanctuary, a place where the spirits could find peace, and Sarah could live out the rest of her days without fear of the vengeance she believed was coming for her. As the years passed, the house grew in size and complexity. New rooms were added, new staircases built, and walls were continuously shifted to accommodate Sarah's needs and beliefs. The mansion itself became a living, breathing structure, constantly evolving to reflect Sarah's ever-changing fears and superstitions. But while the mansion grew, Sarah's health began to decline. The relentless construction eventually took its toll on her, and she died in 1902. At the time of her death, the mansion was still under construction, and it remains unfinished to this day. The mansion that Sarah Winchester created was her final act of devotion to the spirits, and after her death, the construction stopped, leaving behind a house that continues to captivate the imagination of all who visit it. The Winchester Mystery House remains one of the most fascinating and mysterious structures in the world. It is a place where architecture, superstition, and grief intersect, and where the boundaries between the physical and the spiritual seem to dissolve. For those who visit, it is not just a house. It is a living testament to the power of belief, the weight of guilt, and the enduring legacy of a woman who, in the face of overwhelming loss, built a monument to her own fears. The story of the Winchester Mystery House is not just about its strange and bizarre design. It's about the intense, obsessive drive behind its creation. To understand why Sarah Winchester would embark on such a monumental and eccentric building project, we must first look at the broader context of her life and the historical and cultural forces that shaped her decisions. Sarah Winchester's journey to California began after she inherited the fortune of the Winchester Repeating Arms companies, which had made her husband's family wealthy. She was now one of the wealthiest women in the country, yet her newfound wealth came with a profound sense of guilt. Sarah, deeply affected by the loss of her daughter and husband, believed that the deaths caused by the Winchester rifle, used in wars and by settlers to conquer the West, were somehow linked to her own fate. Her life had been one of unimaginable wealth, but it was also a life marked by immense personal loss. In the face of grief and superstition, Sarah turned to spiritualism, a movement that had gained popularity in the United States in the mid-19th century. Spiritualism, which held that the spirits of the dead could communicate with the living through mediums, was a way for Sarah to make sense of her overwhelming sorrow. It was through one of these mediums that Sarah allegedly learned that she needed to build a house to appease the restless spirits of those who had died at the hands of the Winchester rifle. The medium's message was unsettling. To avoid the wrath of these spirits, Sarah had to build a mansion, one that would never stop growing. The work, Sarah was told, could never cease. If construction stopped, the spirits would turn against her. The instructions given by the medium were vague, but Sarah took them literally, believing that every decision regarding the mansion's design and construction had to be made with the spirit's wishes in mind. The construction would never be completed. The house would grow, expanding in ways that defied conventional logic for as long as Sarah lived. By the time Sarah Winchester arrived in San Jose in 1884, she had already become consumed by the belief that she could ward off the spirits by building a home for them. She purchased a modest farmhouse on out of 40 acre plots of land, and from this humble beginning, the Winchester Mystery House began to take shape. It was not a traditional mansion, but rather a sprawling, eccentric construction project that seemed to have no clear plan. It was an ever-evolving structure designed to appease spirits and shield Sarah from their supposed wrath. Construction on the house began almost immediately, and it continued for the next 38 years without pause. Over the years, the house grew from a single farmhouse into a massive, sprawling mansion. Workers employed in shifts day and night toiled tirelessly, constantly adding new rooms, hallways, staircases, and fireplaces. Sarah Winchester's directions were both mysterious and unorthodox. Some of the workers, in fact, were confused by the bizarre requests made by Sarah, who would ask for staircases to be built that led nowhere or doors that opened into blank walls. Despite the strange design choices, the mansion grew in size and complexity. At its peak, the Winchester Mystery House would contain 160 rooms, 47 fireplaces, 10,000 windows, and 2,000 doors, many of which opened into nothing. This seemingly random construction was the result of Sarah's obsession with following the instructions she believed were being given to her by the spirits. The house was constructed with such peculiar features that many wondered whether Sarah had lost her mind or whether she was truly in touch with the supernatural forces she believed were guiding her. One of the most unusual features of the mansion is the presence of doors that open into walls and staircases that lead to the ceiling. These seemingly nonsensical features were built at Sarah's direction, and they have become defining characteristics of the house. The house is often described as a reserve labyrinth with its numerous twists and turns, dead ends, and hidden rooms. There is no clear order to the design of the house. Each room and hallway seems to exist for no other reason than to fulfill Sarah's belief that she was building a home for the spirits. Sarah's desire to appease the spirits led to a variety of odd architectural choices. For example, windows were often placed in the strangest locations. Some were positioned high on the walls with no view beyond, while others opened onto blank spaces or other rooms. There are also numerous hidden doors, some of which were installed to allow Sarah to escape quickly from any rooms where she believed she might encounter restless spirits. The layout of the house is disorienting, with corridors that lead to nowhere, rooms that serve no clear purpose, and staircases that seem to climb without reason. Perhaps the most famous feature of the house is the Oz Grand Ballroom, which is accessible only through a narrow, hidden staircase. The ballroom itself is a grand space with high ceilings and ornate woodwork, yet it serves no functional purpose. It is said that Sarah never used the ballroom for social gatherings or events, and its construction may have been more of an aesthetic or symbolic choice rather than a practical one. The house's design also reflects the era in which it was built. The Victorians and Queen Anne architectural styles were popular at the time, and Sarah's mansion incorporated elements of both styles. The ornate woodwork, detailed cornices, and elaborate window designs all reflect the opulence and grandeur of the Victorian era. But the mansion's design was never intended to be a typical Victorian home. Instead, it was meant to be a living tribute to Sarah's spiritual beliefs. The house was constantly evolving, reflecting her personal journey and her need for spiritual redemption. Despite the mansion's size and grandeur, Sarah's psychological state seemed to deteriorate over the years. As the house grew, so did her obsession with the spirits she believed haunted her. It is said that she would sometimes walk through the mansion, stopping at certain rooms to make sure the spirits were appeased, or moving objects around to ensure that the house remained in balance. Many of the rooms in the mansion were constructed with the sole purpose of providing a safe haven for Sarah from the ghosts that she feared. In addition to the bizarre architecture, Sarah also incorporated elements of Oz' spiritual symbolism into the design of the house. For example, she is believed to have included Eerie 13 in many aspects of the mansion's construction, as the number 13 was considered to be spiritually significant. There are Iser's 13 windows in some rooms, 13 fireplaces in others, and even I's 13 steps leading up to certain doorways. 13, in spiritualist belief, was thought to be a number represented both destruction and transformation, an important motive in Sarah's quest to protect herself from the spirits she feared. The mansion was also filled with symbolic objects and decorations. Stained glass windows depicting symbols of peace and protection, such as spiders and spider web spot, were incorporated into the house, as Sarah believed these images would ward off evil spirits. Other symbolic decorations, such as stars and moons, were believed to represent the connection between the earthly realm and the spiritual realm. The design of the house, with its shifting floors, odd angles, and constantly changing layout, was not just a reflection of Sarah's personal fears, it was also a manifestation of the Oz's spiritual beliefs that guided her actions. For Sarah, the Oz Winchester Mystery House was more than just a home. It was a spiritual refuge, a monument to the supernatural forces that she believed controlled her life. The house was built with one purpose: to appease the restless spirits that she believed she had angered, and to provide a safe haven for her in a world that she no longer understood. The early days of the Oz Winchester Mystery House were filled with an air of intrigue and secrecy. By the time Sarah Winchester had settled into her new home in San Jose, the construction of the mansion was well underway. The process of building the mansion was a constant and often exhausting affair, with workers coming and going in shifts around the clock. They followed Sarah's instructions to the letter, although they were sometimes bewildered by her eccentricities and unusual requests. While many thought of the house as simply an architectural oddity, to Sarah, it was a spiritual sanctuary that would keep her safe from the vengeful spirits she believed were haunting her. Despite the constant construction, the mansion was not just a chaotic building project, it was also a reflection of Sarah's personal struggles, grief, and need for protection. The death of her husband, R. William Wirt Winchester, and their daughter, F. Annie, left Sarah devastated. Her grief, combined with the overwhelming guilt she felt over the deaths caused by the Oz Winchester rifle, drove her to seek a way to atone for the tragedy she believed her family's invention had caused. The house was her attempt at redemption, a physical manifestation of her desire to make peace with the restless spirits she believed were haunting her. The mansion itself was both a private residence and a public symbol of Sarah's obsession with spiritualism and the supernatural. In its early days, the mansion was a place of solitude for Sarah, a place where she could escape the outside world and retreat into her own thoughts. Although she was one of the wealthiest women in the country at the time, she kept a low profile, rarely interacting with the public or attending social events. Instead, she focused entirely on the mansion, overseeing every detail of its construction and ensuring that it continued to grow in the way she believed the spirits desired. In the early days of its construction, the house was relatively modest, beginning as a small farmhouse on the 40-acre plot of land she had purchased. However, as the construction continued, the house grew into a sprawling, complex structure that seemed to have no clear order or organization. New rooms, hallways, Staircases and doors were added at a frantic pace, and the house began to take on a life of its own. The mansion was in a constant state of flux, changing and evolving with each passing year. The mansion became a place of mystery, a physical space that was constantly shifting and expanding. Sarah Winchester never stayed in the same room for long, and it's believed that she would sleep in different rooms each night, possibly out of fear that the spirits would find her if she remained in one place. This constant movement, the need to continually change her location, reflected the deep anxiety and fear that she lived with every day. It is said that Sarah often spoke of the need to keep the spirits at bay, and she was rumored to have made offerings to them in various rooms of the house. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Winchester Mystery House is the fact that, despite its chaotic design, it was intended to be a place of peace for Sarah. The house was not a symbol of power, wealth, or status, but rather a refuge, a place where she believed the spirits could find rest, and where she could find solace in her own troubled mind. For Sarah, the house was a personal project, not for anyone else's enjoyment or approval. In fact, very few people were allowed inside during the construction, and Sarah rarely entertained guests. The house was her sanctuary, her personal space, where she could interact with the spirits and continue her quest for peace. While Sarah spent most of her time alone in the mansion, the workers who built it were often baffled by her instructions. Many of the construction workers were not familiar with Sarah's spiritual beliefs and were confused by her eccentric requests. For example, she would sometimes ask for stairs to be built that led to nowhere, or doors to be installed that opened into blank walls. The workers would follow her instructions without question, as Sarah's wealth and influence allowed her to direct the construction as she saw fit. However, there were times when the workers expressed frustration or confusion over the mansion's strange design choices. Some even believed that Sarah had lost her sanity, as her requests seemed increasingly nonsensical and disconnected from conventional architectural logic. Despite the confusion among the workers, the mansion continued to grow and evolve at a rapid pace. As the years went on, Sarah began to integrate more and more elaborate architectural features into the design. Windows were placed in odd locations, some positioned high up on the walls with no clear view outside, while others were built into spaces where they served no practical purpose. Staircases were constructed that led nowhere, seemingly adding to the mansion's labyrinthine quality. Doors opened into blank walls or led to other rooms that had no exit. These features were not the result of poor planning or accidental mistakes. They were part of Sarah's deliberate design to appease the spirits she believed were guiding her. The mansion's bizarre features were meant to confuse the spirits, to keep them from finding Sarah and bringing harm to her. One of the most significant changes to the mansion during its early years was the expansion of the house to include several new wings and additional rooms. Sarah Winchester was constantly directing the construction, adding new features, and insisting that the work continue without interruption. It is said that she would visit the construction site frequently, overseeing the workers and making sure that the house was being built according to her exact specifications. She was meticulous in her attention to detail, and she would often make small adjustments to the plans to ensure that the house remained in alignment with her spiritual beliefs. As the house grew, so did the number of strange and unsettling features. The mansion became an architectural puzzle, with rooms that seemed to serve no purpose and hallways that twisted and turned without explanation. The house took on a life of its own, growing and expanding in a way that defied logic and reason. The mansion was not built with any particular goal in mind. It was an ongoing project, constantly changing and evolving, as Sarah's obsession with the spirits and her need to appease them continued to consume her. The architecture of the Winchester Mystery House is perhaps the most compelling aspect of this strange and captivating mansion. To the casual observer, the house might appear to be an architectural disaster, a hodgepodge of rooms, staircases, and doorways that make no logical sense. But to Sarah Winchester, the design was far more than just a collection of oddities. Each feature, each room, and each hallway had a purpose, whether to confuse the spirits, keep them away, or simply create a space where Sarah felt safe. When Sarah began building the house in 1884, she had no clear blueprint or master plan in mind. Instead, she was driven by a vision that came from the spirits themselves. She believed that the design and construction of the house were being dictated by these spirits, and as such, every decision she made was based on their guidance. The result was a sprawling mansion that seemed to defy the conventional principles of architecture. The house grew haphazardly, with rooms and hallways added as the construction progressed, often with no clear connection to each other. One of the most distinctive features of the mansion is its wide, complex layout. There are 160 rooms in total, many of which are connected by narrow, twisting hallways and staircases that lead to nowhere. The design of the house is not linear or symmetrical. There is no clear organization or pattern. Some rooms are tiny and cramped, while others are grand and spacious. There are 47 fireplaces scattered throughout the house, each one unique in its design and placement. The mansion also boasts over 10,000 windows, many of which open onto strange vistas or lead to dead ends. One of the most perplexing features of the house is its numerous staircases. Many of these stairs seem to serve no purpose at all. Some staircases lead to ceilings, while others end abruptly, offering no way forward. The most famous staircase in the house is the staircase to nowhere, a set of steps that leads up to a ceiling with no door or passage beyond it. This feature, like many others in the mansion, has led to speculation about Sarah's mental state, with some suggesting that the strange design was the result of an unstable mind. However, others believe that these odd features were intentional, designed to confuse the spirits that Sarah believed were haunting her. The design of the mansion is also marked by a series of trays, hidden doors, and secret passageways. These concealed entrances were built to allow Sarah to move through the house without being seen by the spirits she feared. Some of these doors are hidden behind bookshelves, while others are concealed within the walls themselves. These secret passages were not just for Sarah's benefit. They were also designed to confuse the spirits, making it difficult for them to find her. The house became a maze, a labyrinth where the living and the dead could not easily cross paths. The Ezra's windows in the mansion are another distinctive feature. Sarah often had windows placed in unusual spots, such as high on the walls, where they served no practical purpose. Some windows are designed to let in light from unusual angles, casting eerie shadows throughout the rooms. One of the most famous windows in the house is the Var 7-pane window, a window with 7 panes, which is said to represent the 7 days of the week. This window, like many others in the mansion, is symbolic and serves as a reflection of Sarah's spiritual beliefs. As for the Sarah's rooms, they are equally bizarre in their layout and design. Many of the rooms are small and cramped, with no clear purpose other than to fulfill the spirit's demands. Some rooms are filled with ornate furnishings, while others are bare and empty. The interior design of the house is an eclectic mix of styles, reflecting Sarah's personal taste and the influence of the Victorian era. The mansion features intricately carved woodwork, stained glass windows, and elaborate moldings. There are also several ballrooms, including a large grand ballroom, which is accessible only through a hidden passageway. Despite its grandeur, the ballroom was never used for social gatherings, further adding to the mystery of the house's design. While the mansion's exterior is equally striking, it is the interior design that truly stands out. The interior is a maze of rooms, each with its own unique features. Many of the rooms are decorated with lavish furniture and fittings, while others are more modest in appearance. The furniture itself is a mix of ornate Victorian pieces and more eclectic, unusual items. Some of the rooms are designed to evoke a sense of peace and tranquility, while others are meant to be more unsettling, with dark, moody colors and heavy draperies. The mansion is filled with intricate airs, wood carvings, and elaborate moldings were crafted by skilled artisans during the house's construction. One of the most notable features of the house is its 5 symbolic decorations. Sarah was deeply influenced by the spiritualist movement, and she believed that certain symbols could ward off evil spirits. As a result, the mansion is filled with various spiritual symbols, such as our spiders, as a spider webs, stars, and these symbols were meant to provide protection and peace for both Sarah and the spirits that resided in the house. The presence of spiders in particular was thought to symbolize both life and death, with their webs representing the delicate balance between the two. In addition to its symbolic and spiritual elements, the Oz Winchester Mystery House is also a remarkable feat of craftsmanship. The mansion's construction was a massive undertaking, with skilled workers and artisans laboring to create the intricate details that would make the house unique. The woodwork, the stained glass windows, the wrought iron fixtures, each element of the mansion was carefully chosen and crafted to reflect Sarah's vision. The house is a testament to the Darza's artistics and architectural expertise of its builders, and it remains one of the most remarkable examples of Victorian architecture in the United States. Despite its beauty and grandeur, the mansion was never meant to be a typical home. It was not a place for social gatherings or family life. Instead, it was a spiritual refuge, a sanctuary designed to protect Sarah from the spirits she believed were haunting her. The house was a reflection of Sarah's fear, her grief, and her desire for redemption. It was a physical manifestation of her obsession with the supernatural, a place where she could seek peace and atonement. When one thinks of the Oz Winchester Mystery House, the mind often drifts to the mansion's bizarre and disorienting interior. Yet, the exterior and the grounds surrounding the mansion are equally mysterious and captivating. As you walk through the lush, landscaped gardens and around the sprawling grounds, you are immediately struck by the feeling that something is amiss, an eerie stillness that seems to linger in the air. The surrounding Aysgar's landscape and the AR's gardens were as much a part of the mansion's design as the rooms and hallways inside, and they played an essential role in the construction of a house that was as much a spiritual refuge as a physical structure. This Winchester Mystery House is located on a 40-acre plot of land in the Air San Jose, California, an area that would eventually become an urban landscape, but was once isolated and rural. This remote location was ideal for Sarah Winchester, who was seeking both solitude and protection from the spirits she believed were tormenting her. The isolation provided her with the peace she needed to focus on her mission to build a house that would keep the spirits at bay. But it also gave her the freedom to shape the land and the surrounding environment in a way that reflected her spiritual beliefs. As the construction of the mansion continued, so too did the landscaping efforts. Sarah Winchester was said to have taken great care in designing the grounds surrounding the house, creating Oz gardens, and there are walkways that were meant to be both beautiful and symbolic. The gardens were not just decorative, they were an integral part of the house's spiritual design. Sarah believed that the gardens would help create a peaceful, harmonious atmosphere that would soothe both the living and the spirits. The landscaping was as much a reflection of her beliefs as the house itself. One of the most striking features of the S gardens is the use of R's flowers and plants that held special significance. Sarah Winchester is said to have had an affinity for roses, and many of the gardens surrounding the mansion were filled with various types of roses, symbolizing beauty and rebirth. There were also numerous trees planted on the grounds, many of which were rare and exotic species. These trees were believed to have spiritual significance, representing both life and death. Some were thought to be protective symbols, keeping the spirits at bay, while others were meant to bring peace and healing to Sarah. In addition to the roses and Oz trees, there were also carefully arranged stars, flower beds, and shrubs that added color and vibrancy to the mansion's grounds. The S gardens were meticulously maintained, and it is said that Sarah spent a great deal of time walking through them, meditating and reflecting on her journey. The landscape around the house was meant to be a reflection of Sarah's inner world, a place where she could find solace from her grief and fear. The gardens were a retreat, a sanctuary where she could escape the pressures of the outside world and focus on her spiritual quest. However, despite the serenity of the gardens, there was always a sense of unease. The War gardens, like the mansion itself, were filled with hidden paths, secluded corners, and winding walkways that led to nowhere. The ground seemed to mirror the house's design, endless, twisting, and impossible to navigate without the proper knowledge of where to go. These hidden paths and winding trails were symbolic of Sarah's belief that life itself was a labyrinth full of twists, turns, and unexpected paths. The gardens, like the house, were a reflection of her need to find peace in a world that had been turned upside down by loss and fear. Perhaps one of the most iconic features of the gardens is the presence of a large wooden gate that stands at the entrance to the grounds. The gate, like many elements of the house, is a symbol of Sarah's spiritual beliefs. It is said that the gate was designed to keep the spirits out, protecting the mansion from any potential harm. The gate was also symbolic of the boundary between the living and the dead, an entry point to the world of the living, but also a barrier that separated the physical world from the spiritual realm. The alders trees planted on the grounds were another important feature of the landscape. Many of these trees were believed to have protective powers, serving as guardians for the mansion. Some of the trees were planted in special formations with their branches arranged to create a sense of balance and harmony. These trees were meant to act as protectors, shielding the house from the spirits that Sarah believed were lurking nearby. The cypress trees, in particular, were thought to symbolize death in the afterlife, while the as pinus represented as strength and that protection. Over time, the grounds surrounding the mansion became just as important as the house itself. Sarah Winchester's attention to detail extended beyond the building to the landscape that surrounded it. She believed that the beauty and harmony of the Ass Gardens would help to soothe both the spirits and herself, offering a sense of peace in the midst of her inner turmoil. The landscape was a physical manifestation of Sarah's desire for protection, and it reflected her ongoing struggle to find peace in a world filled with uncertainty and fear. As the mansion continued to grow and expand, so too did the gardens. New paths were added, new trees were planted, and new flower beds were created. The landscaping was constantly evolving, much like the house itself. The Winchester Mystery House and its grounds were never truly finished. Both the house and the gardens were works in progress, evolving and changing as Sarah's life and beliefs evolved. In many ways, the gardens were just as mysterious as the house, full of secrets, hidden corners, and symbolic elements that reflected Sarah's beliefs and her journey through life. Today, the gardens surrounding the mansion remain an important part of the Winchester Mystery House's experience. Visitors can stroll through the beautiful gardens, taking in the serene beauty of the landscape while also contemplating the deeper meaning behind the plants, trees, and pathways. The gardens, like the mansion, offer a glimpse into the mind of Sarah Winchester, a woman who, in her quest for peace, created not just a house, but a living, breathing environment that reflected her deepest fears, hopes, and spiritual beliefs. Throughout its existence, the Winchester Mystery House has undergone numerous renovations, each one adding to the mansion's already strange and complex design. These changes, made over the years, have further altered the structure of the house, making it even more mysterious and difficult to navigate. The first major renovations to the house took place not long after Sarah Winchester purchased the 40-acre plot of land in 1884. As she began to expand the original farmhouse into the sprawling mansion we see today, the construction was intense and constant. The work was performed without interruption, with laborers working day and night to fulfill Sarah's vision. She insisted that the work continue at all costs, believing that stopping the construction would incur the wrath of the spirits she feared. It was during these early years that the house began to take its odd shape, with rooms and staircases added at a rapid pace. However, the Kyer's renovations didn't end there. The house continued to expand and change over the years, with new features and rooms being added whenever Sarah Winchester felt the need. Some of the additions were meant to reflect her changing beliefs, while others were prompted by practical considerations. In fact, Some of the rooms added during these renovations were actually intended to create a more comfortable living environment for Sarah, who spent much of her life in seclusion within the house. As she grew older, Sarah began to make changes to the mansion that would allow her to live more easily and safely. One of the most significant renovations took place in the late 1800s when Sarah Winchester had a large as grand ballroom built in the mansion. This ballroom, which is now one of the most famous rooms in the house, was originally intended to be a symbol of peace and serenity. It was designed with the finest materials and craftsmanship, reflecting Sarah's desire to create a space where she could find solace from her grief. However, the ballroom was never used for its intended purpose. Sarah never hosted parties or gatherings there, and the room remained empty and unused throughout her life. Despite its grandeur, the ballroom became just another strange and puzzling feature in the house, its opulence at odds with the mansion's overall sense of disarray. Throughout the years, Sarah Winchester also ordered numerous modifications to the House of Darzair windows and Dye's doors. Some of these changes were made to better accommodate the flow of air or light, while others were intended to create a sense of security and protection. Many of the Asser windows were altered, with Sarah having them placed in odd locations, such as high up on the walls or in rooms where they served no clear purpose. The addition of Sarah Ever's windows was not just a practical decision, it was a symbolic one. Sarah believed that the spirits were attracted to light, and the placement of the windows was meant to either draw the spirits in or keep them away. The Dars doors in the house also underwent several changes over the years. Many of the original doors were removed and replaced, while others were added in strange locations. Some doors led to nowhere, while others opened into walls or dead ends. These modifications were not just architectural oddities, they were intentional. The doors were meant to confuse and mislead the spirits, keeping them from finding Sarah or gaining access to her rooms. The constant addition and alteration of doors was part of Sarah's ongoing effort to create a house that would offer her the protection and security she sought. In addition to the physical renovations, there were also significant changes to the Asai's furnishings and decorations within the house. Sarah Winchester's personal style evolved over time, and her choices of art furniture, artwork, and decor reflected her changing tastes and beliefs. While the mansion was filled with beautiful, ornate pieces of Victorian furniture, it also contained more unusual, symbolic items. Stained glass windows, for example, were incorporated into the design of the house, many of which depicted symbols of peace, protection, and spiritual significance. Some of these windows featured spider webs and spiders, symbols that were believed to protect the house from evil spirits. Other rooms featured elaborate wood carvings depicting scenes of nature, animals, and spiritual figures. Despite the renovations and changes made to the house, one thing remained constant: the mansion was always under construction. Sarah Winchester's obsession with building and altering the house never ceased. She would often call upon architects and designers to make further changes, adding rooms, hallways, and staircases as her vision of the mansion grew and shifted. These constant alterations added to the house's already disorienting layout, making it even more difficult to navigate. The Winchester Mystery House was a living, evolving structure, and it never truly reached completion. In many ways, the renovations were just as much a part of the mansion's story as its original construction. The final renovations took place in the years leading up to Sarah Winchester's death at 1920. At that time, the house had grown to such an extent that it was impossible to imagine it ever being finished. Sarah's obsession with building had taken its toll on her health, and she spent her final years in relative isolation, overseeing the continuing construction of the mansion from her private rooms. The house, now a massive, sprawling complex, stood as a testament to Sarah's enduring belief in the spirits and her need for protection. When she passed away, the construction ceased, leaving behind a mansion that was unfinished, a reflection of Sarah's troubled mind and her quest for peace. Today, the Winchester Mystery House stands as a monument to both architectural ingenuity and personal tragedy. The renovations though completed many decades ago, are still evident in the mansion's design, with each room and hallway telling a story of Sarah Winchester's life, her fears, and her spiritual journey. The Winchester Mystery House is a place of mystery and wonder, a place that continues to intrigue visitors and historians alike, offering a glimpse into the mind of a woman who believed that the spirits of the dead were controlling her destiny. The Winchester Mystery House is not just a physical structure, but a place shrouded in dark secrets and mysteries that have haunted its halls for decades. Over the years, rumors, legends, and unexplained events have contributed to its eerie reputation. The house, with its odd architecture and labyrinthine layout, has been the subject of countless stories, many of which remain unverified, but have captured the imaginations of those who visit or hear about it. One of the most pervasive myths surrounding the mansion is the idea that it is haunted. Stories of a ghost and spirits lingering within its walls have circulated for years, fueled by the house's strange design and Sarah Winchester's belief in the supernatural. It is said that Sarah herself was convinced that the spirits of those killed by the Winchester rifle were haunting her, seeking revenge for the deaths caused by the weapon her husband's company produced. To appease these restless souls, Sarah allegedly designed the house to confuse the spirits with its many hidden doors, staircases that lead to nowhere, and rooms that serve no clear purpose. The house's reputation for being haunted began to take shape even before Sarah Winchester's death. During her lifetime, workers and visitors to the mansion claimed to have seen strange, unexplained phenomena. Cold spots were reported in various rooms, and the sounds of footsteps echoing in empty hallways were often heard. Ace's voices, whispering and unintelligible, were said to drift through the house, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. Many who worked on the mansion believed that Sarah herself was in constant communication with the spirits, and some even claimed to have witnessed her holding conversations with unseen entities. After Sarah's death in 1922, the rumors of hauntings only intensified. The house continued to attract visitors, many of whom were curious about the paranormal activity that had been reported. The Winchester Mystery House quickly gained a reputation as a haunted mansion, and soon it became a popular destination for ghost hunters, spiritualists, and thrill seekers alike. Psychics and as mediums who visited the mansion claimed to have made contact with the spirits of the dead, particularly those of the people killed by the Winchester rifle. The idea that the house was cursed and that the spirits would never find peace became deeply ingrained in the legend of the mansion. But what of the strange occurrences that took place within the house? Were they truly paranormal in nature, or were they simply the result of Sarah Winchester's increasingly erratic behavior and belief in the supernatural? There are several theories that attempt to explain the mystery behind the mansion's dark reputation. One theory is that bizarre architecture of the house, with its countless oddities and incongruities, creates an unsettling atmosphere that makes people more prone to imagining the supernatural. The labyrinthine design, the endless hallways, and the unusual placement of windows and doors can cause confusion and disorientation, which may give rise to feelings of unease and fear. This sense of disorientation might explain some of the strange experiences reported by visitors, such as hearing footsteps in empty rooms or feeling cold drafts in areas with no apparent source of air. Another theory is that the house's design was intended to function as a kind of spiritual safeguard. For Sarah Winchester, protecting her from the spirits she feared, the hidden doors and secret passageways were meant to keep the spirits at bay, but they may have inadvertently created an environment in which people began to feel the presence of the supernatural. The constant changes to the house, the addition of rooms and staircases with no clear purpose, may have left behind an energy that is still felt by those who visit today. Could the mansion's strange design have trapped a certain energy, creating an atmosphere in which the line between the physical and spiritual worlds is blurred? There are also those who believe that the strange occurrences at the Winchester Mystery House are simply the result of either psychological or emotional factors. Sarah Winchester's deep grief over the loss of her family, her obsession with the construction of the house, and her belief in the supernatural may have contributed to a sense of heightened tension and anxiety in the house. It is possible that these psychological factors, combined with the mansion's eerie design, created an environment that seemed to be imbued with a sense of foreboding. While the question of whether the house is truly haunted remains unanswered, there is no denying that the Oz S. Winchester Mystery House is a place filled with an air of mystery and spiritual energy. Whether or not the spirits of the dead are truly present in the mansion, the stories of hauntings and supernatural occurrences continue to add to the mansion's allure. The house is a symbol of the unfinished and in the unexplained, a place where reality and legend converge. Beyond the alleged hauntings, there are also stories of rise scandals and tragic events that have taken place in the house. Some believe that Sarah Winchester's obsession with the supernatural and her belief in the spirits may have driven her to live a life filled with sorrow and anxiety. It is said that she spent many years in isolation within the mansion, rarely interacting with others and spending her time focused solely on the construction of the house. The lack of human connection and the intense pressure to appease the spirits may have taken a toll on her mental and emotional well-being, leading to a life of quiet desperation and loneliness. Some visitors have claimed to experience strange sensations while walking through the house, such as feeling an intense presence or a sense of being watched. Others have reported hearing unexplained sounds like an ox or eyes scratching, coming from hidden corners of the mansion. These sounds have often been described as coming from within the walls themselves, adding to the eerie atmosphere of the house. Some have even claimed to have seen figures or shadows moving through the rooms, although these sightings are typically fleeting and difficult to confirm. While many of these experiences can be explained away by natural causes, there are still some who believe that the mansion's dark secrets and troubled history have left behind an imprint of the supernatural. Whether the S. Winchester Mystery House is truly haunted or simply a product of myth and imagination, its reputation as a place of mystery, tragedy, and dark history continues to fascinate visitors. The house's peculiar design, combined with its connection to the supernatural, has cemented its place as one of the most enigmatic and mysterious mansions in America.